Hello everyone, in this lecture, we are going to explain the difference between dependent clause and independent clause, but, if you are new to my channel then please subscribe the channel and like the video. Let's first learn, dependent clause. It can be defined as: a dependent clause is a group of words that has a subject and a predicate, but it cannot stand on its own as a complete sentence. What does it mean? Simply, it means that a dependent clause is nothing but just a group of words which cannot stand alone as a sentence. To make it easy for you, let me tell you the distinguishing points of dependent clause, one by one, then you will understand it. The first one is: give incomplete sense. By this point, I mean that a dependent clause must give incomplete sense. In simple words, you can say that this clause will give you meaning, but the meaning must be not that much enough to convey full idea. So, this is one of the distinctive points of dependent clause. The next point is: can't stand alone. By this point, it means that a dependent clause must not stand alone as a sentence. Simply, it means that a dependent clause can't stand alone because it has to depend on other main clause. That is why it is always attached to independent clause, because it depends on the main clause. But, if we put aside main clause from a dependent clause, then a dependent clause will not able to stand alone. So, this is also one of the main distinctive points of a dependent clause. Having own subject and verb. By this point, I am going to clarify the question which must be in your mind, that, how a dependent clause cannot stand alone, if it has its own subject and a verb. Though, it will have a subject and verb, but, still it will not give us a complete sense or stand alone. Just look at these examples. Before he takes tea, we should inform him. Look at this example, the group of words, before he takes tea, is a dependent clause. But, the question is, how? The answer is, because it is a group of words, and it has its own subject, he, and a verb, takes. But, again, it cannot stand alone, because if you put aside this part of a sentence, then, it does not make a sense by itself. Though he is my friend, but I don't like him. Again, look at this group of words, though he is my friend, is a dependent clause. You can see that, it is a group of words, and, it has its own subject, he, and, a verb, is. But, still, it cannot stand alone, because if you say this part of a sentence alone, then it does not give us a complete meaning. So, this part of a sentence is dependent clause. Whenever they take class, we never talk. Again, observe this part of a sentence, whenever they take class, it is dependent clause because it has its own subject and verb, but it cannot stand alone as a sentence. So, therefore, it is a dependent clause. On the other hand, independent clause can be defined as: an independent clause is a group of words that has a subject and a predicate and can stand on its own as a complete sentence. What does it mean? Simply, it means that independent clause is also like a dependent clause, like must have its own subject, and a verb. It will also be a group of words, but the difference is, it will stand alone as a sentence, and it will give us a complement sense. Just look at these examples. If you study hard, you will pass the test. Look at this sentence. It has two clauses. The first one is, if you study hard, and this one is dependent clause. And, the next one is, you will pass the test, this one is independent clause. The question is, how? So, the answer is simple, because it can stand alone as a sentence, and it has its own subject and a verb. And it is also a group of words. The next example is: although it was raining, we went for a walk. Observe this sentence. This part of a sentence, we went for a walk, is independent clause because it is a group of words, and it has its own subject and a verb. And the main point is, it can stand alone as a sentence and give us a complete meaning. The last example is: we will not play if it rains. Just look at this part of a sentence, we will not play. It is independent clause, because if you just say this part of a sentence and avoid the rest of a sentence, so, it can give us a complete sense, and it can also stand alone. That's why it is independent clause. Well guys, if you have enjoyed the lecture then please like and subscribe the channel. Thank you.